Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show the real-time assembly of our new absorption frame kit. In this video I'll show the gluing and screwing of the frame, but in a subsequent video I'll show upholstering the frame with some tips and tricks to finishing these frames nicely. First, let me explain why we size the frames the way that we do. Though insulation batting is sold at your local hardware store in bats that are designed to fit in between the studs in your walls. This leads to some variability as to what size insulation you may find at your local hardware store. But in general, the studs in your wall are either 2x4 or 2x6, and the studs are spaced apart from each other either 16 inches on center or 24 inches on center. So the bats of insulation reflect these building code specs. This chart shows the 4 options that we are offering and their reflective stud size and centers. I'll be sure to leave these numbers down in the description as well. Alright, let's move on to what tools you're going to need to assemble the frame. You're going to need a drill to both drive the screws and pre-drill the holes and make a countersink. The frames have all the screw point holes pre-drilled for you, but there isn't pre-drilled holes into the braces and ends of the short sides of the frame. You'll see me pre-drill all these spots in the video with an 1/8 inch drill bit with a countersink on it. So it can be very nice to actually have 2 drills so that you're not constantly changing between the bits. That lines you up for the screwing, but you're going to need some glue for the gluing. In the video, you'll see me use a little acid brush to evenly spread the glue out, but a finger will do just as well. Finally, you'll need a way to sand the frame. You can just use a piece of 80 grit paper and sand by hand, but in the video here, you'll see me use a handheld orbital sander to speed things up. Okay, so now we're entering the real-time assembly portion of the video. I'll interject with some tips and comments, and at the end, there's some additional shots that are a little closer look at what's going on. So first you'll see that I pre-drill into the side of the frame that doesn't have a slot cut into it. The slot lines you up nicely, especially if you use your flat surface to register the frame on. By pre-drilling the slot, you get a nice path for your screw to follow that will prevent the plywood from splitting. And in the same drill operation, you countersink so that your screw heads don't stick out and ruin your upholstery job. On that note, make sure you countersink deep enough that the head of the screw is below the surface of the ply. Otherwise, your upholstery will snag or have unsightly bumps. I tend to do my pre-drill and then immediately glue and screw right after I pre-drill. This will help prevent confusing which sides are pre-drilled, as well as guarantee that any small misalignments that are introduced are misaligned together. That'll help prevent any splitting. I use what I'd call a claw grip? Not sure what else to call it. I apply force on the 2 frame pieces in 2 dimensions while the table takes care of the 3rd for me. Hanging the frame off the end of your table can help you maintain the claw grip while drilling and screwing that bottom hole. So there is also pre-drilled holes for the braces that you'll install after you do the exterior of the frame. I am checking on every piece I glue and screw that the holes are orientated the same throughout the frame. Keeping those holes always turned towards the table or opposite the table can help. But I have found that it can be natural to flip the frame over while assembling. So nothing beats just double checking the alignment. The amount of glue you apply is something you can feel out a little. We are tending to glue into the end grain of the ply, which can slurp up glue pretty fast. If you're getting zero squeeze out after your first corner, try to apply more glue on the next corner. Conversely, if glue is flowing out after you've glued, dial it back on your next corner. A paper towel is handy for a quick wipe up. Again, using the corner and my flat surface to my advantage, I pre-drill the braces in the holes you hopefully have lined up. Also note that you'll want the pocket exposed on the bottom of the brace for your standoffs to slot into later. If you have messed up and your holes are on the wrong side, you can always eyeball a pre-drill after feeling out how the brace fits in naturally to the corner. Try to line up your pre-drill hole for the dead middle of the brace and pre-drill it just like you have the other braces. I've found it works out well most of the times I have inevitably messed up and had my holes on the wrong side. So the final step of this bit of the assembly is a quick sanding. Sanding here largely functions to deburr so as to not snag your upholstery, as well as make sure everything is broadly flat. So I'd recommend sanding every outside surface of the frame with a quick pass of 80 grit. You don't need to sand much more than that. You'll see me remove a screw here and redo my countersink that wasn't low enough. The glue hasn't fully set by this point, but the frame should hold together fine with the other screws. Sanding will quickly point out any little protrusions, so it's a nice final check over of the frame. So that's basically everything. I include a couple bits of B-roll here that are a closer camera angle. Figured it might illuminate some smaller details of the claw grip and using the edge of the table and whatnot. but mostly these camera angles show the back of my arm. So let me know if you found these closer shots useful. That's the video. In the next one, I'll drop some insulation in and upholster the frames. Let me know any questions you may have in the comments and any feedback you may have on this type of how-to video. Appreciate you watching.